Get rid of Good morning. My name is Sheila.
Morning, my name is Arnold.
Ken.
And my name is Isaac. What's up?
Today we will be talking about the Emancipation Proclamation, and we'll be talking about the 13th Amendment. And we will also discuss from slave to criminal justice. First, we will have Arnold that will start out with our Emancipation Proclamation.
So today I'm talking about the Emancipation Proclamation and what it really did, and a lot of the misconceptions that it had. Basically, Abraham Lincoln, he proposed that the preliminary emancipation be issued on September 2nd, 1862. He told the South that if you didn't agree with us, if you didn't want to follow by our rules, and us come together as one, then we were gonna enforce the final emancipation, which would be set in stone, kind of as a new law for the United States. What a lot of people really did not know was that Abraham Lincoln didn't do this to free the slaves. What he really did it for was to kind of get the unions to come together, to kind of work as one. And once the war was actually over, he didn't really care for it. That's why we'll talk about the 13th Amendment and what it actually did.
And that's what we'll see, our founding fathers in slavery. Despite the long history of slavery in the British and in the North American colonies, slavery continued to exist. Even President Jefferson owned many slaves, but he brought forth the proclamation to stop bringing in slaves from Africa. And then that's when we will get more into the 13th Amendment with Kendrick.
The battle over the 13th Amendment. In April 1864, the U.S. Senate passed and proposed the amendment banning slavery within the necessary two-thirds majority. But the amendment faltered in the House of Representatives as more and more Democrats refused to support it, especially during the election year. As November approached, Lincoln's re-election took far from assured, but Union military victories greatly helped his cause, and he ended up defeating his Democratic opponent, General George McClellan, by a resounding margin. When Congress convened in December 1864, the emboldened Republicans put a vote on the proposed amendment at the top of their agenda. More than any previous point in his presidency, Lincoln threw himself in the legislative process, involving individual representatives to his office to discuss the amendment and putting pressure on the Board of State Unionists, who had previously opposed it, to change their position. So here we see something that's being just tossed out, kind of like an idea that Lincoln felt like would be the best opportunity. Like Arnold stated, he didn't really care, or the slaves' best interest wasn't his main priority. His main priority was uniting this end of the United States with the southern part of the United States. And so, it was a lot of backlash, a lot of different things that took spot. You got the, like Sheila said, you had the Hampton Road discussion where they discussed it a little bit. And then here, he's calling all the kind of people, the legislator, he take a legislative role is when he calls everybody to his office to try to, kind of get them on his bandwagon to make them understand that, look, if we want everything to stop, all the wars to stop, and everything to stop, and this would be the best thing.
And here, that's when they had the Hampton Road Conference where that they met on the River Queen steamboat, and which was a very short meeting. President Lincoln came in with that he was not going to bend with his concession, and the Confederates, they sent official officers that could not make decisions. So therefore, they both came to the table with really not ready to make a decision, and the conference was over quickly. now Isaac will come with some things that comes along after the 13th Amendment has been ratified and the slaves are free, and now we come into a new era with codes that are not good for slaves. Okay, Isaac.
All right, guys, I'm here with the Black Codes, right? What a name. So the Black Codes were a set of laws set after the Civil War for the freedmen, and the purpose was to set a strict labor force. Examples of some of the codes that was happening, you're able to whip. There was labor force from sunrise to sunset, 6 days of the week. You were in prison for being jobless if you're black. You couldn't have a trial against whites, and that's it.
And so now we see, you know what? We will find out. Did the 13th Amendment free the slaves? Okay, we will listen at what did the 13th Amendment say? It said neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place and subject to their jurisdiction. And Section 2, Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. So this leads us to the point. Did the 13th Amendment free the slaves? Okay, Arnold.
I feel like yes, but no. I feel like, it gave a foundation to really, actually a step closer to the slaves, actually becoming free. But as far as like actually giving them like full freedom, I feel like that wasn't achieved till like, years later. We're still going through this, still seeing, this, it's not fixed yet. But at that time, they were somewhat free, but they the Black Code said, there were stipulations. If you didn't meet certain requirements, you'd be punished. You'd basically be brought back into slavery.
Okay, yeah, and I agree with that. We talk about freeing the slaves, emancipation, proclamation. You have to realize what is freedom. What do you consider freedom? If you take all the laws that were being put in place at that time, most of them were centered around a way to re-enslave a person. And I mean, some of the stuff was petty. If you divorce your wife, you go back into slavery. You simple things, that is basically nowhere around it, and they all centered, to really target African Americans and push their agenda, which their agenda is to actually have them enslaved. They want a free market, a free labor market, and so if you ask me, did it really work? I mean, it worked for what they wanted it to work for.
And that's what you'll find, it was worse because it was worse than chattel slavery because they were leasing convicts. And they were leasing, and whoever they leased them out to had no responsibility for them. They put them in mines that some went in and didn't come out. And all of the condition that they were working them in was deplorable. So actually, they were in worse condition because the slave master at least took care of them and, wanted them to stay in shape so that they could do their duties in a good way. But now that they're leasing them out, and then they're making a point where they're making people put them in jail so that they can get to free labor, and free labor without supervision, because private owners did not care at all about the welfare of the slaves. So we see the conditions were poor, and it was, to me, it was worse than slavery.
I feel like the 13th Amendment really was just thrown out there, really just saying like, yeah, we freed y'all, but really we took it back by implementing the Black Codes, by having the Black Codes out there. It really didn't free. It just it really just took down what the 13th Amendment was trying to put out. But that's my opinion.
And we see right here where you say, from slave to criminal with one amendment. So this only one amendment, it didn't free, but this one amendment took you to be a criminal. Where at least when you were in slavery, you wasn't a criminal, you was an individual that was a slave, but now you're a criminal slave. So we see that, it wasn't fair at all, and we still see today that there is mass incarceration, and there are still petty reasons for incarcerating, and we still find that there are more blacks incarcerated, and a lot of time for simple things. You're not able to pay your child support. You can't find a job, and you can't find a job. You can't pay your child support. So you go to jail. So we're finding that, and when they do, with the drugs, they will be put in jail for longer sentences than other nationalities. And right now, blacks are the largest number of men and women that are incarcerated. So we do feel like that the 13th Amendment, yes, it has brought us to attention. But now in this day and time, we have found that we need to know the law and understand the law to understand, how it affects us, and it is still affecting us as all individuals, because some of it is economical as well as race. But we know that the 13th Amendment did not do us as we think that it should have.
Our second question is, we know President Lincoln, he abhorred slavery because, he said it was a moral evil. But what was his actual, primary reason for going to war?
The primary reason was that it was trying to get the unions together. So really, by trying to get the unions together, he had to free the slaves, and that.
Right. At this point, he was in a desperate state where he had to come up with a way, because you have two of the most kind of powerfulest economic thing going on, and you have two of the same, but they pull it in different directions. You have the South is banning, is pulling to keep the slaves. Well, we got a free slave market force that's thriving, versus the North saying, well, it's morally wrong. And so you have Abraham Lincoln in the middle of everything, torn between the two, and his main priority is just trying to get the thing back together any kind of way that he can, any tactic he can use to kind of pull these two different states together. He's willing to try. Right, the North and South, he's willing to try anything that bring it back to get him to jail again.
And we thank you, and that's all.